Most collapse under these 5 demonic energies, except dark chosen ones. I want you to imagine something most people never even consider. Imagine being dropped into a world that's not asleep, but enchanted. A world that looks normal on the surface. People go to work, drink coffee, love, laugh, cry, but underneath, there's something else. Something pulsing, watching, manipulating. A set of energies so ancient, so subtle, and yet so destructive that they don't need to announce themselves. They just exist inside thoughts, inside systems, inside relationships. These are the 5 demonic energies, not demons with horns and red eyes. No, these are energetic intelligences, parasitic frequencies that feed on human unconsciousness, and most collapse under them. Most never even realize they're being devoured. But we, the dark chosen ones, we see them, we survive them, and eventually we command them. But before we talk about power, let's talk about pain. Because the path to becoming immune to these forces does not start with strength. It starts with suffering. The kind of suffering that doesn't make sense. The kind that haunts you in childhood, that follows you into adulthood, that wraps itself around your every attempt to be normal. Have you ever felt like you were carrying a weight you didn't choose? A sadness that didn't belong to you? A fear that seemed older than your body? That wasn't weakness, that was contact. That was your first encounter with one of the demonic frequencies. And instead of it destroying you like it does most, it marked you. Because you felt it. You didn't numb it. You didn't run. You stayed, and that's what makes you different.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
There are 5 of them. Not 5 entities, but 5 distinct energetic intelligences that manipulate reality by exploiting the human mind, body, and soul. They don't arrive with drama. They arrive with familiarity. That's what makes them so dangerous. They feel like normal emotions, like regular thoughts. But they carry a frequency that bends your will, distorts your vision, and eats your power from the inside out. The first one, despair. Not sadness, despair. The kind that makes everything feel pointless. The kind that makes you question whether anything matters. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It tells you nothing will change, that you've already failed, that you should give up. It is the death energy, the inverted source frequency. And most people, when it touches them, do exactly what it wants. They stop dreaming. They stop trying. They submit, but not us. Because we don't fear despair. We live with it. We sit inside it and listen. We don't fight it. We witness it. And in that witnessing, something incredible happens. It starts to lose its grip. Why? Because these demonic energies feed on resistance. They feed on denial. But when you turn around and stare them in the face without flinching, they begin to reveal their code. And that's where our power begins. We transmute what others avoid. We don't escape the frequency, we master it. The second is distortion. This one is more subtle and more widespread. It's the energy of confusion, illusion, cognitive dissonance. It's how entire societies are kept asleep. It makes people believe lies about themselves. It twists reality just enough that you start to doubt your own intuition. You stop trusting yourself. You ask for permission from people who don't even know who they are. You betray your inner knowing to stay safe. This is the energy that turns kings into beggars, queens into servants. And yet, we the dark chosen learn to see through it, not because we're better, but because we've been betrayed so many times, lied to so often, gaslit so relentlessly, that we had to learn how to see truth with no evidence. Do you know how powerful that is? To sense truth in a room full of lies, to know what's real even when the world calls you crazy. That is not a flaw. That is divine technology. That is your ancient self waking up. And that's why distortion can't hold us for long. We've been trained by suffering to discern frequency, not appearance. We read the energy behind the words. We feel the intent behind the smile. We know when someone is hiding darkness behind light. And that level of perception is exactly what allows us to walk through the illusion without being consumed by it. The third is division. This energy is the master of separation. It turns you against yourself. It splits your mind. It makes you doubt your purpose. It breeds shame. It tells you you're not enough, not good enough, not pure enough, not spiritual enough. And then it tells you others are the problem. It makes you hate your reflection, and then it makes you hate your brother. It weaponizes identity. It turns awakening into ego. But here's what we've learned. Unity isn't about sameness. It's about wholeness. And we've had to become whole in ways no one sees. We've had to integrate our rage, our lust, our grief, our madness not to be perfect, but to be real. And in that realness, division loses its power, because it can't separate what has already become one. So I ask you now, have you noticed these energies in your life? Has despair whispered to you in the night? Has distortion made you question your sanity? Has division made you feel fragmented, alone, disconnected from your own soul? If so, you're not broken. You're being initiated. These aren't punishments. They're keys. And the only reason they haven't destroyed you is because they can't. You were built for this. You were chosen for this. And the very forces that collapse others are the ones that are forging your true power. But there are still two more forces. And they are deeper, darker, and more seductive than anything we've covered so far. Most never see them coming. Most are devoured before they even know what hit them. But not us. Because once you understand them, once you feel their pattern, you can decode them. And once you decode them, you can command them. The seducer and the devourer, how to face the final two energies that feed on the souls of the unawakened. There's a kind of darkness that doesn't shout. It doesn't roar or scream or claw at the door. It whispers. It seduces. It wraps itself around your desires and makes you believe that what you want is what you need. It tells you that safety is earned by compliance, that love is proven through sacrifice, that success is measured by how much you're seen. This is the fourth demonic energy. We call it the seducer. And it is the most dangerous of all because it doesn't feel like an enemy, it feels like a gift. You've met this energy before. Maybe you didn't realize it. Maybe it came to you in the form of validation. A job offer that paid well but drained your soul. A relationship that looked perfect on the outside but slowly hollowed you from within. An opportunity that stroked your ego but starved your spirit. The seducer doesn't need to force you to betray yourself, it just needs to incentivize your silence. It offers comfort, applause, attention, control. And in return, it takes your sovereignty, piece by piece, smile by smile, until one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize your own reflection. Most collapse under this energy because they confuse it with success. They think they're winning when, in truth, they're being fed on. The seducer feeds on your potential. It feeds on your integrity. It feeds on the future you were meant to build but never did because you were too busy being liked. It doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if you're useful. And the moment you start to question the game, it turns up the volume. More praise, more followers, more opportunities. It wants you addicted to the illusion so that you never ask the most important question, what part of me is being silenced so I can stay safe? But we, the dark chosen, don't play that game. Not anymore. Because we've seen where that path leads. We've been the golden child. The favorite. The one everyone wanted a piece of. And we felt the emptiness that comes when your soul is starving but your life looks perfect. That's why we walked away. That's why we burned it all down. Not because we wanted to suffer, but because we remembered who we are. And once you remember, the seducer loses its grip. You stop chasing applause. You stop proving your worth. You start honoring your truth, even when no one claps for it. But if the seducer tries to buy your soul, the fifth energy, the final one, tries to devour it. This is the energy of complete absorption. It doesn't seduce. It consumes. It waits for you when you're exhausted. When you've said no to the validation, rejected the illusion, and stood alone in your truth. It comes in the silence, in the stillness, in the void, and it whispers, "Give up," not in a dramatic way, in a slow, relentless way. It tells you you're alone, that nothing matters, that your path is too strange, too hard, too lonely. It is the energy of spiritual starvation, the devourer. The devourer doesn't want to destroy your life. It wants to destroy your connection to source, to your mission, to your inner fire. It feeds on your doubt. It thrives when you isolate, not for clarity but for despair. It will let you meditate for hours, journal for days, read every book, as long as you don't act. As long as you keep circling your potential without embodying it. It doesn't need to kill you. It only needs to keep you disconnected. This is where most spiritual seekers fall. They think they're awakening, but they're actually being eaten from within. Because awakening without embodiment is a trap. Truth without action is a cage. You can know everything and still die empty if you never live it. That's the devourer's final move, paralysis disguised as presence. But we know better, because we've sat in that silence and chosen to move anyway. But we've felt the weight of meaninglessness and spoken truth anyway. But we felt the void stare back at us and still created something from it. That's what makes us different. We don't wait for the fear to leave. We walk with it. We don't wait for the energy to return. We summon it. Because we understand that action is the exorcism, creation is the banishment, and movement, no matter how small, is the one thing the devourer can't digest. So I ask you now, what are you waiting for? What truth are you circling but not living? What dream have you buried under layers of spiritual theory and emotional fog? What would happen if you stopped waiting to feel ready and just moved? Not recklessly, not to escape, but as a declaration, I am still here. I still remember. I still choose to live. That is how you sever the final chain. These five energies, despair, distortion, division, seduction, and devouring, they are not myths. They are real. They are in the field. They are in the culture. They are in you. But they are not your masters. They are your tests, and every time you survive one, you gain a piece of your true self. Every time you face one, you reclaim a part of your soul. And when you've faced all 5 not once, but over and over, you realize something life-altering. You were never meant to be protected from darkness. You were meant to command it. The alchemy of power. How dark chosen ones transmute demonic energies into divine authority. There's a moment that comes after the fire. After despair has tried to bury you, distortion has tried to confuse you, division has tried to break you, seduction has tried to buy you, and the devourer has tried to erase you. It doesn't come with trumpets or fanfare. It comes in quiet, in stillness, in a moment where you realize you're still here. You're not just alive, you're aware. And for the first time, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" And you start asking, "What am I becoming because of this?" That is the beginning of alchemy. Because here's the truth most will never understand. The purpose of demonic energy is not simply to destroy. Its deeper function, its hidden design, is to refine. These forces are part of the architecture of awakening. They are perfectly calibrated to burn away everything that isn't real. They sharpen you, harden you, humble you. And if you survive them, if you surrender to the process without losing your essence, what emerges is not just a survivor, not just a student. What emerges is a wielder, a conductor of power that no one can take because it was never given. It was earned. This is where the dark chosen separate from the rest. Because while others try to avoid these energies, we digest them. We don't bypass the pain, we mine it. We don't hide from the shadow, we integrate it. We take despair and alchemize it into depth. We take distortion and mold it into clarity. We take division and forge it into wholeness. We take seduction and transmute it into sovereignty. And we take the devourer, the void, the silence, the paralysis, and we turn it into stillness, discipline, presence. Not because we were taught how, but because we were forced to. Real power is not given through titles or techniques. It is embodied through transmutation. And transmutation requires proximity to the very things most people run from. It requires you to stand in the fire without flinching, to look at your own rage, your own fear, your own shame, not to destroy them, but to understand them. Because everything you repress owns you. Everything you deny controls you. But everything you embrace, it becomes fuel. This is what the world doesn't teach, that your darkness is not your weakness. It is your initiation, and if you carry it long enough, consciously enough, it begins to change form. It begins to speak. It begins to reveal ancient codes, spiritual technologies buried in your bones. You start to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You stop looking for light outside of yourself. You realize you are the light because you've walked through the dark and come out the other side with your soul intact. But there's a responsibility that comes with this power. Because once you've transmuted pain into wisdom, you are no longer just a seeker. You are a mirror. You walk into a room and people feel confronted not because you're judging them, but because your presence reflects the parts of themselves they haven't faced. You speak, and the words carry weight not because of eloquence, but because of frequency. You stop needing to prove anything because your energy speaks louder than your voice ever could. This is divine authority, not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates, the kind that isn't loud but undeniable. The kind that you carry in your gaze, in your walk, in your silence. And it only comes from having died again and again without losing your will to rise. That is what separates the initiated from the informed. That is what makes you different. Not your knowledge, not your rituals, but your resilience. So I ask you again, how will you use the pain you've survived? Will you let it sit in your body like unprocessed trauma? Or will you turn it into gold? Will you keep running from the energies that shaped you? Or will you master them until they no longer haunt you but serve you? Because the truth is, you're not just here to survive darkness. You're here to command it, to stand at the center of the storm and know that you are not its victim, but its conductor. You are not here to be saved. You are here to wield the very forces that once tried to destroy you and become the living proof that power and purity can coexist. The final trial, why only those who birth themselves through the abyss can lead the new earth. There is a line most never cross. It's not marked on any map. You won't find it in books or teachings, but it's not a place, it's a threshold. A vibrational cliff where your old self begins to disintegrate and your true self is asked to emerge naked, unarmored, and fully awake. This is the final trial. It's not about knowledge. It's not about gifts. It's about embodiment. It's about whether or not you are willing to become what you were forged to be. And only those who walk through this abyss with nothing left to prove, nothing left to protect, will carry the codes of the new earth. Because here's the truth, the world isn't falling apart. It's falling open. The systems are crumbling not because we're doomed, but because they were never built from truth. And in their collapse, something ancient is returning, something raw, something real, but it cannot be led by those who are still clinging to ego, identity, performance, or control. It can only be led by those who have died into their truth, who have faced the abyss, not as a concept, but as a lived experience and birthed themselves on the other side. This is not a metaphor. The abyss is real. It shows up differently for everyone. For some, it's a loss so unbearable it shatters your worldview. For others, it's a prolonged isolation, a season of silence where everything you thought mattered dissolves. For some, it's a psychic unraveling, your beliefs, your desires, your very sense of self stripped away until all that's left is presence. And in that presence, a terrifying question arises: if I am none of what I thought, then who or what am I? That question is not answered with words, but it's answered with being. In the abyss, you stop trying to fix yourself. You stop trying to ascend, achieve, transcend. You stop reaching for light and realize you are the light, not the performative, polished kind. The raw, holy, unfiltered light that comes from having been broken and rebuilt by something greater than you. And once that light ignites, it doesn't shine for attention, it radiates truth. It cuts through distortion. It burns through illusion. And it calls others to remember who they are not by teaching them, but by being the vibration they've forgotten. That's why only those who've walked through the abyss can lead, because they no longer lead from ego. They don't need followers. They don't need to be seen. They lead because it's encoded in their bones. They carry the frequency of someone who has become empty enough to be filled by Source. And in that emptiness, they become vessels, not for doctrine, but for truth in motion. They don't just speak about awakening, they embody it. They don't just teach sovereignty, they radiate it. And this is what the new earth needs. Not more information, not more rituals, but not more gurus. It needs frequency holders, people who have transmuted pain into power, people who have turned their trauma into tools, people who don't just talk about love, but a love uncompromising, unshakable, and unafraid. People who know how to hold space for others because they have held space for themselves in their darkest hour and didn't abandon who they were becoming. So I leave you with this. If you've been in the abyss, if you've felt like everything is falling away, if you've questioned whether you're losing your mind or finally meeting your soul good, you're close. You're not breaking, you're birthing. And the world doesn't need more survivors. It needs initiated creators. It needs leaders who don't lead from hierarchy, but from frequency, who don't seek to dominate, but to anchor a new reality from inside their own being. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too lost. You are becoming. And everything you've endured wasn't punishment, it was preparation. So when the time comes to rise, don't ask for the path. You are the path. Don't wait for the light. You are the light. Don't search for the gate. You are the key. And now walk through.